Welcome to another episode of Navigating Cancer Together. Today is June 19th. Happy Juneteenth and happy National Cancer Survivor Month. This is part 3 of a 4-part series to pay homage to National Cancer Survivor Month. Before I really get into what this episode is about, I want to share some information with you about a study shared by the Oncology Nursing Society, ONS. This study is all about digital storytelling as a psychosocial tool for adult cancer survivors. This study was done in March of 2019. I will have a link to the study in the listen notes. The purpose of this study was to understand the meaning and impact for adult patients with cancer, past or present, of creating a digital story related to their cancer experience. There were 10 participants that made digital studies with the help of a research assistant trained in digital storytelling. The findings revealed that digital stories were cathartic, reconnected individuals with families, friends, and parts of their lives that had been interrupted from cancer therapy. It helped many patients reflect in a way that was often described as therapeutic and bridged communication with others about their cancer experiences. Digital stories can be used to highlight the immense psychosocial impact of cancer and point healthcare professionals and other researchers toward creative and non-traditional ways to address the issue of the psychosocial impacts of cancer. I wanted to share a little bit about this study because this episode is all about storytelling and the power of listening to stories, sharing your stories as ways to connect with others, and to also open the door to healing for yourself and for others. I can honestly say that every time I share my story, it is very healing for me. It's very therapeutic for me. And I pray that one person, if they benefit from hearing my story, I am definitely fulfilling my purpose. Hello, everyone. This is Talaya Dendy from On the Other Side Life, and you're listening to Navigating Cancer Together, the show that has something for everyone facing cancer. Why? Because everyone is different with different needs, beliefs, and perspectives. Thank you for joining us for this episode. I encourage you to open your minds and your hearts. Today, our very special guest is Stephanie Y. Cole. Stephanie is a storyteller and native New Yorker who loves leadership philosophy, self help books, science and fantasy fiction, classic comedy, salsa dancing, and calypso music. Stephanie created an oasis of many stories so that you can escape and re emerge with positive reflection, laughter, and hope. Stephanie has a deep love for old school music. How could you not? She prefers the vinyl format. She lives and works in podcasts from Harlem, New York City. Now, I must mention that Stephanie is not a cancer survivor or someone who has cared for a person with cancer. However, Stephanie is a caregiver for her mother who is living with dementia. I wanted to bring Stephanie on the show for a very special episode in honor of National Cancer Survivors Month to talk about the importance of storytelling and sharing one's story. Some people are very open about their experience with the cancer, and some are not. Sharing or not sharing, they're both equally okay. It's your choice. This discussion and the information that will be shared is not intended to persuade or guilt anyone into sharing their story. It is about the power of stories, how they create connections, and provide hope and healing. So, without further ado, Stephanie, thank you so much for joining us today and welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I am super excited. I love the work that you're doing. And I took the liberty to listen to some previous episodes. And I have to say, powerful stories. I mean, just the journey that many of your guests have taken, either themselves as being cancer survivors or caring for loved ones who have taken the journey as well. It's an amazing testament of strength and endurance, and most of all, resilience, because it ain't for the weak. it's not for the weak. And hats off to you for being a stable post in a storm of so many things, emotions, of course, health and uncertainty. And then there's your podcast, which serves, I think, as a beacon for people who just need an anchor, if only for a few moments, just to reground themselves and then, continue on with the work that's been set in front of them. So thank you. And thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Stephanie, for your kind words and for listening
Absolutely.
to episodes and really honoring the stories that you've heard from past guests. Now, let's talk about you, Stephanie. Please
Okay.
tell the audience more about who you are and what drew you to storytelling.
Well, ever since I was small, I've always loved to interact with people and make them laugh and build clubs and connect people. To give you an example, my mother tells me this story, told me this story, and I have to believe her. She said that when I was little, whenever she would take me with her to her medical appointments, she could count on me. She'd be over at the front desk signing forms or what have you. And she didn't even have to know what was going on. She could hear over her shoulder behind her that I would have the entire waiting room just transfixed. I would go over to each person. I think I may have been about 3 or 4. I would go over to each person in the waiting area and I would climb. I said climb into their laps and look at them and say, Psst, are you sick? What's wrong with you? Oh, I hope you feel better. Okay, I gotta go. And I would do that to each person. And then my mom, she would, because mothers have that like, what is my kid? Hold on. And she would
Yes.
turn around, Stephanie, get back over here.
She knew.
She knew. So I just love connecting people. And it's both a burden, it's a blessing and a burden because sometimes I can feel a little too much and it can be
Mhm.
overwhelming. But for the most part, I love storytelling and how it connects. I really think that storytelling for me is the universal lubricant. And you have to be careful when you say universal lubricant because it's like
Yes,
this is a family show. What I
exactly.
mean is it's a universal connector that joins people together, even if you don't know the language, even if you don't necessarily know the culture. There's a universal human experience that we all share, and we can find each other, I think, in storytelling. And I have a number of stories I'd love to share with you. I got
Okay.
some goodies.
Okay, wonderful. So, how is your form of storytelling unique?
I think that my form of storytelling is unique because it shows vulnerability, right? Stories don't have to necessarily be glossy and shiny and, picture perfect. It just needs to connect on a deep level. Sometimes a place that you didn't even know you needed connection. That to me is a great story. A lot of times, I think we walk around seeking, a lot of us, not all, but many of us, even today, especially after the pandemic, we are walking around with open holes within us, and we're seeking for that to be filled. We're seeking community, we're seeking connection, and we're trying to fill it up with many, many things. And I think that sometimes, not all the time, sometimes the right story can turn you towards a better way, a better way.
I agree. And I think also of this mindset that every story has a good ending. And if it
Mhm.
doesn't, it's a bad story. And that's
No,
not necessarily the case.
the
Then you
case.
talked about community and
Mhm.
connection. And of course, that's important for all of us. But I found that to be really important for people who are living with cancer, facing cancer, but then also other major illnesses that,
Sure.
just having someone that you can connect with who understands what you're going through. In a sense, you can share stories with each other about what you've been experiencing. And that's very therapeutic as
Yes.
well.
I want to share something with you I thought that was very interesting. Now, come with me. Come with me before the pandemic. Remember life before the pandemic? Remember,
Yes, a
remember that
little.
time? And get right. And I remember I live in New York City. I live in Harlem and don't have a car. Use the train, take the train everywhere, right? And before the pandemic, I'd be on the train and I would look and you see these ads. You see these ads for home health aides, right? And you see the ads for home health aides, and it would usually be a younger person, maybe 20s, early mid 20s, fresh face. They have on their scrub uniform. And then there would be an elder person, older person with them. Usually it was a woman, sometimes a man, but usually an elder woman. And they would stare into the camera and there'd be this image of this home health aide and this elder. And I remember before the pandemic going, wherever I was going, and I would see those ads and they wouldn't connect with me because I was, why would I? That's not important. I don't really need a home health aide. I'm relatively, stay with me, relatively still young. So I don't really need a help. So I didn't pay attention until the pandemic. Now, fast forward to 2024, whenever I see an ad for a home health aide and there's an elder woman, I think of my mom and I think of the home health aides that have come and that have helped me journey with her. I had no idea what was involved in home health care because why would I? I didn't know. I didn't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
The pandemic came, lockdown happened. My mother was not doing well. She had to be hospitalized. Hospitals, there was no visitation. So you have this elder woman in this place alone
Mhm.
with no visitation,
Yeah.
locked down. She probably didn't understand what was happening. You have her adult daughter losing it,
Yeah.
can't even go to see her, can't communicate with her to let her know she's going to be okay. I was not able to be that familiar constant in this wave of uncertainty. She was alone during a pandemic in a place of strangers.
Yeah.
That still haunts me to this day. So she gets out and she has some rehabilitation. And then I had my first home health aide to come.
Oh, wow.
No idea. No idea. And I remember all of the ads that I had seen in the past. And I was like, okay,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
so who is this person coming into my mom? So how are you? My name is Stephanie. This is my mom. Okay, come in. Okay, so all right, okay. And when I tell you that a world opened up, so I want to pause. Shout out to all of the medical professionals, all of the nurses, doctors, CNAs, home health aides. Blessings to you and your family. Blessings because the work and the caretakers, yes, the caretakers, the work that you do, both seen and unseen, is saving lives in more ways than you could ever know. I was not aware until I became initiated
Yeah.
into that club. And I said, wait a minute,
Yep.
they do this for a living?
Yeah. This is
They
serious
they do
business.
this?
Mhm.
And now when I'm out and about, because you can usually spot the CNAs and the home health aides on the street because it's usually an able-bodied person dressed in their scrubs, usually,
Mhm.
and they're with an elder. So you
Yeah.
kind of put it together and you're like, okay, I think that's what's going on. And now when I see them, my heart just warms because it's like, oh my, what would we do without you?
Yeah.
And then also, can you imagine, Talaya, what it must be like for an elder not to have someone to see about them?
Yeah, that they know and recognize.
Yes,
Yeah.
I thought about that as well. And so many emotions. So when you and I met, and I learned about the work that you have done and are doing and will do. I said, look at her. Look at her. The people need to know. The people need to know what you're doing because there is a loneliness.
Mm-hmm.
There is I can only speak for myself. I can't speak. But there is a loneliness not only for, I would think, the actual person that's
Yeah.
being cared for, but there's a loneliness for the caretaker.
Yes.
And unless you have done some caretaking for an extensive amount of time, it's very tricky to explain that to someone who has not done it
That's right.
because there are lots of emotions. Can we let me scoot up here. Hold on.
Yeah.
Can we talk and
Lots
get
of
to the
emotions. Yeah.
Can we talk? We're gonna go deep. We're gonna go into that. Okay. Okay. Back up. Back up. There are so many emotions. There's fear. I felt fear because
Mm-hmm.
it's like I'm not equipped to do that. I don't I don't know how, I'm not
No one
trained.
trained. Yeah.
I
Mm-hmm.
mean, do I don't what if something happens to my mother or to the person I'm caring for? What am I supposed to do? Much like I would think newborn baby parents, you got the
Yes.
new and you're coming home and you're like, this is a living human. What do we do with it? Like, okay, so did you want to poke it? Is it still breathing? Okay, now what?
Exactly.
Feed it. Okay, change it. Now what? So going through all of that. So there's fear. Then the thing that people won't talk about, but I will, I'm only speaking for me.
Yes.
There is an anger. There is an anger that comes the situation, with the
Mm-hmm.
situation. And dare I say, I'm going there. So hold on to something sturdy, people, because she's going. The caretakers know where I'm about to go. And they're like, say it, Stephanie. Say it.
Mm-hmm.
Say it. Don't you worry. I'm going to say it. There's an anger at the actual person.
Mm-hmm.
There's an anger. I felt a level of strong emotions, close to anger, like, how could this happen? You're
Mm-hmm.
supposed to stay a certain way, and
Yeah.
now you're a different way, and I don't like it. It scares me, and I'm not in control of it. It is
Yeah.
outside of my control. And now I'm being forced every day or whenever I come to visit and to take care of this individual, I'm forced to come to terms with what I see in front of me.
Yeah. That's so true. I hear that a lot, actually.
Oh, it's the
Yeah.
truth. It is the
Yeah.
truth. And caretakers who've done it, they're like, she wasn't supposed to, she wasn't supposed to put that out. You're not supposed to put that. But
Yeah.
yeah, there's,
You didn't
but
sign up for it,
you
you
didn't sign
know?
up for it, but here
Yeah.
you are. Here you are. But for me, the most beautiful thing that has happened is the day of acceptance. I think that there is a grieving process. I think that
Of
you go through the
course.
stages of
Absolutely.
grief. And there's a day where it's no longer about you, the caretaker, like, why? I don't look. And then there comes a day when you realize, listen, it's not about you.
Mm-hmm.
It's about doing the best that you can within the situation and making peace with that. You want to
Yeah.
do more, but did you do your best? You did? Okay. You
That's
sure you did
good.
your best? You did. You sure? Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Now shake hands with that, make peace with that, get your rest, drink your water,
Exactly.
and understand that you're doing the very best that you can. You're
That's
doing
right.
the best that you can.
Yeah. And a lot of times too, it's hard to remember when you're in the throes of it
Mm,
that you have to give yourself grace and the person you're caring for grace as well. Because
true.
I think that what I've heard is that there's often a breakdown of communication. The
Yes.
person who's being cared for even feels guilty. And then the
Mm,
person who's caring for the other person, like you said, there's a form of guilt for feeling certain emotions.
Oh, it
And
gets
so,
messy. It gets so messy. It gets so
yes,
messy. And the person being cared for is like, well, if you don't want to be here, you don't have to be here.
exactly.
And the person who's doing the caretaking is like, look, I'm going to be here because I have to be here. Well, you don't have to be here. Well, yes, I do. Now let me love you.
Yeah.
Why won't you let me love you?
Yes, a
It starts to
production.
get it's just like drama, but
Yeah.
the day that the acceptance comes, I think that the person being cared for feels it. They
Hmm.
feel it because I could be wrong, but I'm thinking if the roles were reversed and I was the person being cared for and there was someone coming in to care for me and I felt like, are you mad at me? Because I, I don't, I don't, I already don't feel very good about a lot
Right.
of things. And now I'm wrestling with upsetting someone else who feels like they don't want to be here, but they're here out of duty.
Yes.
But the beautiful thing is, as I said earlier, the day that everyone accepts everyone where they are is like, you know what? I wish that you were not in this particular condition.
Right.
I would want something else for you. But you know what? The fact remains you are.
Hmm.
The fact remains I can't change it. So
Let's
while
do
we're
it.
both still here, let's do this.
Exactly. And Stephanie, too, I think what a lot of people are not prepared for either
Mm.
are the reversal of roles. So, for
Oh my
example,
gosh.
in your
Yes.
case, your mother, she's the mother and
Mm-hmm.
you're the child. And
Mm.
now the roles have reversed where you're taking care of her. And she's used to being the mother, at one time the head of the household. And so
That's
I
right.
hear that's challenging as well.
Yes, we had we had several situations where my mom looked at me like she didn't say it, but when you've lived and grown up with your parents, words need not be spoken. It's all in a look. It's in a look.
You
And when
just
you get
know.
that look, you just know, like, oh, oh. And I remember the day that, despite everything, I am her daughter, but I'm an adult woman. I'm a
Yes.
grown woman who's incredibly attractive, by the way, I might say. But that's another. Anywho, so I remember her doing something, and I basically told her, no, this is what we're doing. And the power play that commenced was one for the history books because she stared at me. I stared at her. She stared at me. I stared back at her. She stared. I said, we stared together. And there was this dawning on her face. It was like this, where she saw me, but then she saw me. And you know what happened then? Talaya, there was the tiniest smile, like, oh, look at her.
Yeah.
And she grown, ain't she?
She
Did she
thinks
just
she
put her,
grown.
yeah, did she just put her foot down? I taught her that's what I taught her. Yeah. I don't
Hmm.
like it, but I kinda like her spunk. All right, she's gonna be all right.
I taught her well.
I taught her well, but I'm still your mama.
Right?
So there was a lot of
Yes.
that going on, but I saw it flashed for like a millisecond. You
Hmm.
had to have your eyes trained on the subject to see it. But when I saw it, I was like, yeah, Baba,
Yeah.
I was scared. I was shaking in my boots.
Yeah.
Yeah, Baba, because I'm in charge.
Yeah.
I'm
But
running
you had the
things over here.
breakthrough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she realized, like, my daughter means well. She is a grown adult and she's willing, she has a lot of courage. She's willing to really push back for my well being.
Yeah. That's
What do
what's
you know?
important.
Yeah.
A great advocate is what that is.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you so much for sharing that very personal story, Stephanie.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think stories and storytelling is so important?
I think that stories can reach people where other interactions cannot, because you can, if you need to, you can be someone else. You can move within a different framework and feel a bit of protection. You can get a lesson, or you can get a piece of wisdom in that method that just straight dialogue may not connect with the listener. But a story is like, so what you're trying to tell me is I need a breath mint. Is that what
Yeah.
you're saying? Now, see, if I told you you needed a breath mint, I might lose my job. So I told you the
Yeah.
story. So it's a way of saying what needs to be said to get a particular message across, but in a very creative way. Because it's all about connecting. It's all about getting the message in. And I think that the church and members of clergy and the like, they know this instinctively. They know this instinctively with telling the morning message in a house of worship. And of course, you got the band behind you. You got the
Yes.
organ and the piano and the drums and percussion and the choir and everything else. That's just
Reinforcement.
theater, but it helps drive home the story of particular lesson for that day. So it all works together, I think.
Mhm. That's true because just think about when you're watching a movie or something, and you can tell when something's about to happen by the music that's going on in the background. It's like,
That's right.
okay, something bad is about to happen or something
Mm-hmm.
good. So yeah, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
Stephanie, for you
Yeah.
personally, if you don't mind sharing, how has storytelling been healing for you?
Oh goodness. Okay. This is a world premiere. I've never shared this story, but I'm going to
Well,
share it
thank
here.
you. Thank
You're
you.
welcome. When the pandemic happened and my mother was taken, she wasn't doing well before the pandemic, but I think when pandemic happened, things just accelerated. And if there were ever a worse time to be in a hospital, that would be it. If you can avoid it, just don't, because there's just a lot of things happening, capacity and everything else. And just, but because of the situation, it was what it was. And I remember the EMTs coming to my parents' home and me standing there trying to make a decision of whether or not she should go, to the hospital, to emergency, and the looks on their faces. Now, mind you, this was the beginning. This was the beginning. This was like when things were really, people were like, what's going on? Let me get back to my loved ones. I don't know. Let me just station here with people that I love, and we want to ride this out. I get in the back of the ambulance with her. And before we take her down on the gurney, I put these pink slippers on her feet, pink slippers, because she didn't have any house shoes on. She just had socks, house dress. We get her in the ambulance. I'm in shock. I'm just, I'm because I don't think I'd ever been in an ambulance before. The back of one. I've been in a car riding and seen it through the windshield, but I'd never physically been inside of an ambulance. So I'm sitting inside of this ambulance with my mother on our way to emergency. My mother is quiet, and she has this very peaceful, almost angelic smile on her face, which is absolutely frightening because I'm looking
Mhm.
at her and she's looking at me and she's just smiling very gently. That right there, I think, is a mother, because she was like, my baby's freaking out. So what I
Mm.
need to do is get her get her back down off the ledge, and
Yeah.
then we'll take it from there. So she's looking over and she's smiling. I'm holding her hand. We get to emergency. Now, remember, hospitals are locked down. I had
Yeah.
forgotten, Talaya. I had
Okay.
forgotten. So I had
Yes.
every intention of marching my fanny, into the ward and giving the staff what for. This is what you're gonna do. This is what you're not gonna do. This is my mama, and you're gonna take care of her and treat her right if I say so myself.
Mhm.
I get out of the back of the ambulance. They take her and they wheel her wherever they wheel her. And I go through another entrance. I go to security and I say who I am. He tells me to wait.
Mm.
Nurse comes down and she looks like she landed from another planet. She's got the
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 full
space suit
hazmat.
on,
Mhm.
full hazmat space suit, helmet, gloves, big boots, whatever. And I'm looking like, what on earth? So she's asking for, because I'm like, what?
It's
And
funny now. It wasn't
it
then.
it was not funny. And that day that I went with my mom, it was raining. And I didn't take an umbrella with me. It was raining. But, I just jumped out of the ambulance because, yeah. And I'm
Mhm.
standing in front of the nurse. She got a clipboard. And I remember she was wearing glasses. I could see through the clear front of the helmet, the hazmat helmet or whatever. I give her all of the information. And I say, where do I go? And she says, oh no, ma'am, there's no visitors. We're locked
Back
down.
out the door.
Right. And she said, you go back out. And I don't know how how do they keep it? I don't know. So I'm staring at her, blinking because my brain is not, I'm
Yep.
looking, and this nurse has seen this a billion times. Like, this is not her first row. She's like, here we go. And I'm kind of looking at her, kind of confused. And she's looking at me like waiting for it to click, for my feet to
Yes.
start moving so I can go back outside. And I'm looking at her and I said, what do you mean? And that's when I saw like this look like, I gotta tell her.
Yeah.
And she said, well, ma'am, we're not letting anyone upstairs. And I said, well, she's gonna be all alone. And her voice got gentle, like, oh boy. And she said, we'll take care of her. We'll take care of her. And I said, well, and I was holding the pink slippers, right?
Yeah.
I was holding them in my
Yeah.
hand. And I said, well, but she doesn't know it. And I could feel myself just like the years
Walking through it.
dropping off. And
Hmm.
I sounded like I was 7 or 8. And I said, but she doesn't know anybody up there. And the nurse, her eyes got even more gentle, like, oh boy. And she said, ma'am, we'll take care of her. And I said, well, her feet get cold and she doesn't have her, and I was holding these pink slippers. Her feet get cold and she doesn't have her slippers. Can you give these to her, please? And the nurse very gently said, ma'am, we can't allow any
Outside.
outside things on the ward. And I said, well, what am I supposed to do? Like, the brain.
I get it. I get
And
it.
she
Yeah.
said, ma'am, go home and we will. Now, mind you, this is March of 2020. Ma'am, go home and we will call you if there are any updates about your mom. Just be available by the phone. And I said, and I consider
It took a
myself a
while.
reasonably intelligent person. When I tell you the synapses were not,
Hmm.
I just looked at her and blinked what felt like an eternity.
Yes.
And I had the pink slippers, one in each hand, and I walked out of the exit of the emergency into the rain. I had no umbrella, no hat. It was just bareheaded. And I just remember, and I had my mask on, and I just remember walking home slowly in a daze, carrying these pink slippers in the rain. What I must have looked like to people who were going in the opposite direction coming towards me as I was walking towards them, I must have looked really, because people were looking at me like, I think she's in shock. And I was just picture it, a
Yeah.
woman, no umbrella, no head covering, soaking wet, walking slowly in a daze, holding two pink shoes in the
Hmm.
rain. I get back to my apartment. And this was a time when you're supposed to leave all of your clothes at the door so you could wash them later separately. But
Yeah.
I strip down to everything. I
Mm.
take my shower, I put on clean clothes, the whole nine. And yeah, pink slippers, pink slippers, just amazing. So storytelling, yeah, yeah.
That really touched my heart. And I could actually feel myself standing there with you, trying to
Mhm.
figure out what this nurse, this doctor is saying.
It didn't
And I
click
can
at all.
understand that. That feels like when you get, they're two different things, but I'm talking about the feeling. That's like when you hear those words, you have cancer, and everything slows
Slows
down.
down.
And you hear something, but you're like, what?
Mhm.
Huh? What do you mean? I understand, Stephanie. I do.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, pink slippers.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's world premiere, world premiere.
World
Near,
premiere
near,
right here
near,
on
near.
Navigating Cancer Together. Thank
Yeah,
you, Stephanie.
you're welcome.
Very heart touching story.
Mhm.
You
I have a
know,
funny story too. So I have a funny story to bring
yes,
the crowd back up. They're
to
like, "Well,
bring it back
Stephanie,
up. Yeah.
come on this show, messing us up. I'm trying to drive home from work, and what are you doing?" Yeah,
But those are the phases and cycles of life, the peaks
yeah.
and valleys of life. And here we are now, and it's almost like that happened many years ago.
1,000 years ago, but it's still here,
It's
like
still
the
here.
ghost of it,
Yeah,
the ghost of all of that is like a layer of mist is just hovering above. Yeah. It's
absolutely.
going to take a while for us to really yeah, it was
Yeah,
something.
for it to really, yes, I understand. Thank you so much
Hmm.
for sharing that very personal story and
Sure.
experience.
Sure.
Stephanie, from your perspective as a master storyteller, is what I like to call you.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely. From your perspective, how can people living with cancer
Mm.
or other illnesses, how can they utilize storytelling to better help them work through or get through or even cope with what it is that they're experiencing?
I think that someone who is coping with that dreaded disease is uniquely qualified to speak about courage, uniquely qualified to speak about staring perhaps your biggest enemy in the eye, staring it down, like looking at it and not running. I believe that people who have experienced that kind of challenge, they know things. They know things about going in and coming out the other side that no one else can possibly know. They know things and they have stories about how to approach a challenge. They have stories about seeing it through. They have stories about not running, standing right, it's charging at you, standing right in front of it and staring it down. They are uniquely qualified, and no one can take that from them. No one. Because that individual can say, "All right, so you say I'm a punk, huh? Is that what you said? Because that's what I heard you say. No, 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 don't back up. No, 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 no. Lock the doors. Don't let him out. Don't let him out. Lock the doors." So let me get this straight. You said I am a punk, a cancer survivor. That's what you said. No, no, no. That's what you I have it on tape. That's what you said. All right. By the time I'm done with you, we're going to see who the punk, the real punk, really is. Because one thing cancer does not do is discriminate.
That's true.
It comes for you and it comes for you hard. And if you are one of the warriors who gets through the other side, oh, well, baby, now you can look at anybody and say, try me, try me. Get a t shirt that says, try me, try me.
Yeah.
And a
Yes.
warrior knows another warrior. Someone who's been in the trenches, you can spot is like, oh, I wouldn't, that one right there. I don't know. I don't know what they've been through, but leave them be. Or they look at, no, no, no. That one, very strong. No, leave them be. I know what I know. And then you find out they're a cancer survivor, and you're like, oh, okay, whew, glad I did not run up on that person because I would have gotten not only my feelings hurt, but my whole soul would have been shattered because I believe, I could be wrong, but I don't think so. I believe that they've been to some places and back.
Mhm.
So what am I afraid of now? I'm still here. What am I afraid of?
Exactly.
You?
Yes.
I'm afraid of you. I've seen bigger and better. You, you're cute. Oh, but you are cute. Bless your little heart. That's what I
Mhm.
believe that cancer survivors and the people who care for them, they know stuff and they have stories.
Yeah.
They do.
Yeah.
And every story doesn't have to be about necessarily the disease itself.
Yes.
No. You want to know, if you want to know how long something takes before you have a breakthrough, a cancer survivor might be able to walk you through. You want to know about facing something that you're running away from and having to stand flat footed and look at it and go, well, we're here now. So, all right, I'll guess. A cancer survivor might have some words that you can use and get some wisdom. You want to know about real love and a person caring for you and being with you through it all. And it has nothing to do with outside, it has something to do with
Mhm.
inside. A cancer survivor may have a word or two about what caretaking is. No, he loves you, girl. I don't think that she loves me. She loves you. Well,
Yes.
why do you say that? Well, tell me what she did again. Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
She loved. Well, how do you know? Because no one is going to do X, Y, and Z unless there is a love so deep. So even though it doesn't look like what you think it should look like, that right there is love. I know love when I see it because I'm talking about a cancer survivor. I know
Yeah.
love when I see it because I had that love shown to me. So hold on to that man, hold on to that woman because you got a good one, right? I think that the
Mhm.
stories are there. I think that the
Absolutely.
stories are there. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing your perspective on that.
Sure.
And it is very important, even if I believe, even if you don't, and no one has to share their story with the world, get on a podcast, do any of
Mm-hmm.
these things. But I think it's very important to at least be transparent with yourself
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
about your stories.
That's hard. You know how hard that is to
Yeah,
to
it's
to speak
hard.
truth to
It's
yourself.
hard. Yeah,
Because who are you
it's
going to fight?
hard.
Like you running around, you running around your house. Who are you fighting? There's only one
Right.
person here. What are we doing? So, and
Yes,
you can't run from yourself. So,
that's right. That's
yeah.
right. Yeah. Thank you. So let's segue now to
Hmm.
some upbeat. You said you had a
Yeah,
really good, funny, happy story. So let's
I
hear it.
do. Okay. This is one of my first stories from my podcast, and it's a true story. Takes
Okay.
takes place on a train, New York City transit train,
Okay.
and I call it middle seat matchmaker. Right? Yeah. Now, anyone who have you ever been to New York,
I
Talaya?
have not. I want to
Oh,
come one
listen.
day.
If you
Yes.
come to New York, let's have a tutorial. You and I will have a tutorial because I want
Okay.
you to live. Okay, I want you to return back home in one piece. There are rules,
Okay.
both spoken and not,
All
to
right.
navigate NYC, but that's a
But
story for another show.
are the rats going to leave me alone or is that just a myth?
I think that the rats know tourists, and even though even though we can get a bit interesting to each other, we like to pretend that no, we don't pretend. We are excellent hosts. So, but
Okay.
once you stay here more than 3 days, you're one of us. So,
Okay.
get in, get out, and still be a guest of New York City. But anywho, back to the story. So I'm on this train. And anybody who rides the New York City Transit train knows you do not sit in the middle seat, much like a plane. The plane,
Oh,
you got the
okay.
window and you
Yep.
got the aisle. And sometimes you're looking, you're like 36A, 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 and you're like, oh no, please don't tell me it's the middle. Nobody likes the middle seat
Mhm.
unless you are bone tired and that's the only seat available and it's crowded and you're wearing your cute girl shoes with
Oh,
the toes
yeah.
and the heel out and it's in the summer, you and your shopping bags are going to squeeze into that seat because let's do this. So I squeeze into the middle seat, right, Talaya? Now, New Yorkers know this. You try to pretend to sleep. Nobody is sleeping. When you see New Yorkers on the train and their eyes are closed, they are coiled to strike. Their eyes are just closed. They hear everything. They feel everything. If you watch sleeping people, they're not relaxed. Their bodies are ready to run at a moment's notice and fight. It's just that their eyes are closed. Very
Mhm.
important. Sitting in the middle seat, I'm feeling somebody kind of leaning and looking to someone opposite me. It's that feeling that you're sitting, my eyes are closed, and I feel this body on one side of me moving forward. My shoulders are brushing this person. The shoulders are brushing. They're moving forward, and it feels like they're trying to look over me to someone on the other side. It was like, kind of like, what is going on? So I finally opened one eye, like, this person has one more time to try to look over me at whatever they're trying to see. Me and my sandals are going to go to town because this is not cute. I don't like it. What are you doing? I finally look and it's a guy and he's trying to get the attention of a girl on the other side. So there's a
Oh.
guy on one side, me in the middle with my shopping bags and my sandals. Still remarkably attractive, by the way. I have to let you all know. Anyway, and then there's a girl on the other side. So once I see that, I said, oh, I like a love story. Okay. So I kind of look at him and I say without saying, it's all in the face. The eyebrows went up, my eyes got really wide. I kind of tilted my head toward the girl that he was trying to get. And I said it all without saying, like, you trying to get her attention. Is that what you trying to do? That what you're trying to do? And he kind of nodded like, yeah. And I was like, say less, brother. I reach in my bag. This is a true story. I reach in my bag and I pull out a small notepad and a pen.
Oh, wow.
And I write the following. The guy to the left of me is interested in getting to know you better. Hold on, because I'm doing my service. I'm doing my service for the city. You're welcome. The
Oh,
guy, the guy on the other side of me is interested in getting to know you better. Are you A, available,
you did the ABC. Okay.
B, interested in getting to know him better, C, leave me alone? Ripped, ripped the little mini page, folded it for drama. She loves a good drama. Folded it and politely eased it to the girl on the other side. Now, mind you, it was her turn to look at me like, what is this lady
What?
handing me? You don't just be handing people stuff on it. Lady, I don't know. Are you handing me a note?
Mm.
Who are you? She took the note. She opens it, she reads it. Now, remember, I said the guy was like leaning all over me, trying to get her
Yes.
attention. Now he's punking out. He's leaning back. He's leaning back
Right.
like it's not me. It's not because
Right.
she would. Now the girl is leaning forward, like, well, who trying to get to who she talking about? Wait, let me see. Is that him? Is that him over there?
Mhm.
Is that him on the other side? Well, I can't really see him. Hold on, let me get. I can't. Oh. So she looks and she sees him. She takes the note, flips it over, proceeds to write whatever it was that she wrote, and she hands it back to me. The guy is watching. He's swallowing very hard. He's like,
Oh
oh,
boy.
oh God. I don't even look because I respect romance. I did not read it. I was like, brother, you're about to get your dreams fulfilled on this train or your heart broken. I don't
Exactly.
know, but here's the note. So I give him the note. He rushes and he opens it. He looks at it and he breaks out into this. His whole face is beaming like he swallowed a thousand candles and stars, beaming, beaming. Talaya, when I saw that, I looked at him and I was like, get up, switch seats, get up, get up, get up. He was
Exactly.
like, what? What? Get up, get up.
Yes.
He's like, what do you switch seats? Switch seats. He was like, what? Switch seats. What? Switch seats. I'm trying to
Exactly.
be cool. And
Discreet. Yeah.
he was like, oh, you want me to switch? So we switched seats, and now the two of them were sitting
Oh,
together. She's looking at him, and she's kind of like, hi. He's looking at her, and he's like, hi. I'm over there like, look at what I did. Ain't love
yes.
grand? They're talking. And then I realized, you know what, Stephanie, you don't need to be sitting. You don't need to be here. Go find your look. You and your shopping bag and your sandals. Go find a seat somewhere down. And I was like, oh, I think I see an empty, because the train had emptied out a
Yeah.
great deal. I think I see an empty seat further down. Let me give these lovebirds some room to make the magic happen. So I kind
Nice.
of elbow him because, New Yorkers, we're not nice. We're not kind, but we're nice. No, we're not nice, but we're kind. We're kind. We're not necessarily nice. So I elbow him like, all right, don't let me down. Me and my shopping bags, we get up. I go to the far end of the train. I don't look at them. I'm like, look, my part's done.
You're on your
Brother,
own.
you're on your own. You two look really wonderful together, but I'm out. I don't know. And my stop comes and I gather all my things and then I risk a look at them because I was like, oh. And as I'm getting off the train, I look at them and the two of them are looking at me and they're both smiling. And I said,
Oh,
okay, you guys have a great night. And they're like, thank you.
nice.
I don't know where I don't know what happened to them. I don't know if they got together and stayed together, but that was my donation to the love circuit in New York
Nice.
City.
Wonderful story.
And
Wonderful
scene.
story.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you so much for sharing that. I
You're
like that.
welcome. You're
Yes, you
welcome.
did your duty.
I did my
Absolutely.
duty. Mm,
Stephanie, now let's transition to talking
mm,
about your podcast.
yes.
It's called Audio Oasis. Please tell the audience what that is about and what they can expect to hear when they listen.
Okay, now I'm gonna put on my podcast voice. Hold on.
Okay.
Let me sip from you. You guys
Okay.
can't see it, but it's a cup that's rhinestone encrusted. Let
Yes.
me take a sip of the water so I can get my
That's
vocal velvet.
nice.
Wait a minute.
Yes.
Mhm.
She has the bedazzled
It's a
cup. Very
bedazzled cup,
nice.
so I can get the artistry flowing. Okay, hold on.
Okay.
I am going to give you. See, you see how
The
sexy it got.
transition.
All of you folks that are riding in your car right now, you see how sexy it got. So when I do my intro, here's my intro, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Audio Oasis Storytelling Podcast, a place where you can stop by, listen, think, laugh, but most importantly, rest.
Okay.
Did you
Nice.
like that? Wasn't that good? Okay.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
but
Great.
thank you. And I have this vocal velvet episode about the love of mac and cheese.
Is that your favorite episode?
That's the episode that sounds a lot like romantic fiction, but I'm talking
Okay.
about mac and cheese. I'm talking about it being hot and warm and it's firm and I can't get enough of it and I can't stay away. And why does it tempt me so? And I want it late in the afternoon. So I remember when I made that episode and I had told my Bible study class about it. And I said, yeah, so girls, I have this episode called the Vocal Velvet Mac and Cheese Edition. They were like, oh, okay. Each one of them was like, Stephanie, before you told us it was mac and cheese, we thought we had to pray for you. We didn't know where this was going, So I like to have fun. I like to have fun.
Mhm.
And basically, the objective of the podcast is to escape,
Okay, we need
to
that every
escape,
now and then.
just to get away. These are very short stories. They don't take a lot of your time. While you're waiting for the light to change at a light stop, while you're walking to the parking garage, while you're walking to the break room to make coffee, just enough time, 4 to 6, 8. The longest one is maybe 14 minutes, but typically 3 to 5, 7 minutes just to get a shot in the arm, you know, get you
Yeah,
back out there. Like, that was funny. I kind of
right.
appreciated that. And you just go on about your way. And I talk about so many different things, you know.
Wonderful. Stephanie, where
Absolutely.
can the audience tune in?
Well, you can find Audio Oasis anywhere where podcasts are found on all of the listening platforms. It's there. It's Audio Oasis Storytelling. And if you want to get in contact with me, you can find me on LinkedIn, and I'll make sure that Talaya has my LinkedIn link.
Stephanie, I must say, I think you recently started season 3, if I'm not mistaken.
I
I
think
heard an episode you were talking about church, and
yes,
yes,
yes, yes, yes, yes,
uh-huh,
yes, yes. That was one of my episodes from back in the day, and I love that episode. I talked about the deacon in
yes.
our church, and it drew upon the Black church experience. And for those that are not familiar, in a lot of Black churches, you have the deacon board, of course, a deaconess, and then you have the ushers board, and the ushers are responsible for hospitality within the house of worship, and they make sure that when people come into the house of worship, they feel welcomed, they feel a sense of warmth and graciousness, and they're shown to their seats, and they're given programs and fans, and they answer questions about the service and the like. And we had one deacon in our church. He's gone now for many years. He was also the custodian, and he was a military man, retired military man. And he kept the church clean. You could always find him in the doorway of the church, because that was his job. He would come to the church every day to make sure that things were in order, especially for the upcoming Sunday. So if you were in the neighborhood and you were walking by our church and the church was open, he would just be standing in the doorway, just watching the world go by. Or he'd be at the desk, by the telephone. You call the church, his voice would probably be the voice that you would hear. But he was the head of the senior usher board. And for
Oh,
and for those that are familiar with the Black church experience, there is something called the Ushers March. Are you familiar, Talaya? There's
yeah,
something called the Ushers March, and
yeah.
basically it's a ceremonial, the pageantry. Oh, the pageantry. Oh my. It's a ceremonial march after the main Sunday offering has been taken up, and everything has been gathered and it's been taken in the back trustee area, what have you. The ushers now assemble to basically march in formation down the main church aisle around the church. And at the end of the ushers march, that signals the time to prepare for the morning message. But our deacon, because he was former military, he had a way of marching. And Talaya, when I tell you how the church would go up. Now, no disrespect to all of the other usher board. Like, you had the junior usher board and you had the different, no disrespect to any of them. Love them, love them. But when Deke was on the door for that Sunday, people would come up from the kitchen. Y'all know about frying the chicken in the okay. People would come up from the kitchen to watch this distinguished gentleman lead that ushers march. So it went like this. So, and the band, the whole church band would get super excited, especially when Deke was on duty that day. Even the pulpit, they would start like murmuring, like, is he here? Oh, he's gonna lead. Oh, wait. Okay, this is gonna be good. This is gonna help my message. This is gonna help my message. Right. So the band would get together, and one of the popular songs was Walk in That Beautiful Light. Walk in That Beautiful Light. And I'm not gonna sing,
Okay.
although I can, but the words to the song was walk in that beautiful light, talk in that beautiful light, somewhere the dewdrops of mercy shine bright, shine all around us by day and by night. Jesus, the
Mhm.
light of the world, right? And you would see them in the back getting their steps together, because it's one thing as African Americans, one things we love is culture and pageantry. So you would see the ushers in the back getting their steps together, just trying to get their steps together, and they would get in rhythm. They would get in rhythm. The band is going, the tambourines are going, the drums is going, the Hammond B3 organ is going, the chords, the choirs are singing, the soloist has a soloist mic. She's just belting out the song. Everybody is happy. The congregation is on their feet. And everybody keeps looking at the back of the church, waiting for a deacon to come down that center aisle and set this thing off. Then they would hit a particular chord, and he would begin to move in precise formation. Dark suit, crisp white shirt, dark tie, usher's badge on his dark suit, white gloves, impeccably groomed, shiny shoes. And he would start moving. And when he would march, tunnel vision, if you were standing in front of him, no one would dare stand in front of him. But if you were to stand in front of him just to see what it looked like as he was coming towards you, it was like a slow motion freight train. His eyes didn't look to the left or the right. Perfect posture, ramrod spine, shoulders back, eyes staring straight ahead like a laser. But here was the thing, Talaya. This was it. When he would hit the front of the church, he had to make a turn. He had to make a turn to go, across, and another
Yeah.
turn to come back up. When I tell you how the whole church would lean forward to see him make this turn, the preachers in the pulpit would stand up and lean over the pulpit like, here he comes, he's going to turn, here he comes. The organ would swell to a crescendo. The pianist would be hammering out the keys. The tambourine is like full throttle drums, and the entire congregation would hold its breath. And then snap, he would turn, and the church would go up in complete pandemonium. And Deke would never crack a smile. He wouldn't laugh. He wouldn't gloat. He wouldn't be prideful. He would just do his duty until he got to the second sharp turn. Bam! He would hit it, and the church would completely fall out. And the ushers behind him, no smiling, perfection. And he would go back up the side aisle to the end, and then they would do their bow, their bow to show that their duty, had ended for that moment, and the morning worship would begin. And that was one of my favorite memories of my childhood church. I called that episode Sharp Corners, White Gloves, and something. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Interesting. I like that.
Oh, it was pure pageantry. It was serious. Listen, to
Serious
the
business.
ushers out there, you all know ushering is serious business. It is to be respected. And I did. I loved it. I loved
Yeah.
it. I loved seeing him do that.
Wow. That is it almost sounds like it was a gift that he was giving to everyone each
Yes.
Sunday.
People
Yeah.
who had not been in church, when they heard, because you know how the church grapevine, they're
Mhm.
like, wait. So Deke's on the door this Sunday? Bet. I'll be there. I'll be there. Yeah, it was wonderful. It was
Nice.
wonderful. We
Nice.
love that. He was just such a symbol of consistent excellence. He
Mm.
could be counted on. He could be counted on if nothing else. And he did so much for us. But if nothing else, he could be counted on to deliver what consistent excellence looked like in terms of a march and a crisp, sharp corner turn. Never failed. Never. Many have tried. Many have tried. We've seen different usher boards would come for like ushers anniversaries, and different guests would come and they would bring their ushers, of course. And there was like a grand march of all of your ushers. They would all march together. And we would watch how they would get to the front, and we would see how they would navigate that turn. And we would go, no.
Can't be duplicated.
No,
Sorry.
can't be duplicated. Yeah. Love him.
Thank
Love
you.
him. You're
Thank you for
welcome.
sharing that. Finally, Stephanie, as we wrap up here, what is something that people often misunderstand about maybe sharing their story or just storytelling in general?
I think that people may not think that they have one. And I think that everyone has a story. Everyone has a story that someone can relate to, because the universal connector is humanity. And if you are human, we all have some shared human experience with someone on this planet. So we all have one.
That's beautiful. I agree. And, for anyone out there listening, just wondering if is my story important or no one wants to hear it? As Stephanie said, there's at least one person out there that will benefit from your story. Stephanie, thank you so much for spending so much time with us for this very special episode to honor National Cancer Survivors Month. Thank you for being so gracious with your time, Stephanie.
It was my pleasure, truly. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure, Stephanie. Thank you so much for sharing your stories, for coming on and showing us why you're a master storyteller, making those connections, those heartfelt connections. And I appreciate you.
Same. We must do this again. We
We
must.
must.
We
We
must.
must.
Mhm.
Before we end today, I'd like to give a shout out to the listeners. Thank you so much for joining us. Please share, follow, or subscribe so that you can easily find this podcast and listen again. You can find Navigating Cancer Together on Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you are looking to expand your professional network, please join me on LinkedIn. As an active member of the platform, I would like to personally invite you to connect with me there. Let's grow our connections together. Search for my name, Talaya Dendy. That's TALAYADENDY. Here's another thought for you. How did this episode make you feel about the stories you have inside of you? Please connect with me on LinkedIn or Spotify and leave a comment. Again, how did this episode make you feel about the stories that you have inside of you? That is it for this Wednesday. And until next time, let's keep navigating cancer together. Take care. Thanks for listening to this episode of Navigating Cancer Together. I hope you found it helpful. Please be sure to subscribe, share, and tell your friends and family about it. For notes from the show and previous episodes, visit ontheotherside.life and check out the podcast section. I would love it if you join me for the next episode. Talk to you soon.